Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and actually chart out your path to solving a massive real-world environmental problem: fast food packaging. We're going to do this by walking through the exact design cycle that you'll be using in class. Because, as a designer, you literally have to power to create solutions that don't just look cool, but actively reduce pollution out there in the world. So let's break down every single step you need to take to get to that final product. Here's your map to victory. We're going to quickly run through the design brief basics, move into sketching and 2D drawings, tackle a 3D isometric projection guide, go over the making and safety rules, and wrap it all up with evaluating your packaging. All right, kicking things off with step 1, the design brief basics. So, I just want to briefly remind you what is absolutely needed in a successful design brief. It's really built on 4 core pillars. First, you got to identify the problem, in our case, the environmental impact of all those fast food wrappers. Second, the beneficiary, like who or what actually wins when you solve this. Third, you have your specifications. These are the specific properties of your materials, like maybe needing a recycled or grease-proof card. And fourth, your constraints. These are the strict structural rules your product has to fulfill. Basically, you're setting the rules of the game before you even start playing. Because honestly, before you draw a single line, you have to ask yourself these exact functional questions. Does the packaging hold food? Is that food wet, dry, hot, or cold? What size should it be? Must it have a closing device? I mean, think about it. If you're designing a box for a piping hot, incredibly greasy burger, your material choices and structural constraints are going to look vastly different than if you're just making a little sleeve for some dry French fries, right? You have to answer these questions to effectively counteract the negative environmental impact while keeping the whole thing actually functional.
Moving right along to Section 2, Sketching and 2D Drawings.
Now, when generating your freehand solutions, remember, you can't just doodle. I want to briefly remind you of the technical sketching rules you need to follow. Professional designers use these rules so their teams understand exactly how things work. You need to clearly label all your parts and materials. Add really specific notes on your making method, like how exactly does tab A fit into slot B. You have to indicate your dimensions and scale, especially since you're making models. And always, always call out special features. Say you have a clear display window to show off the food, that needs a call out. This step perfectly illustrates the leap from an idea to a blueprint. So let's briefly remind you about 2D working drawings. On one side of the coin, you have your rough freehand sketches. These just capture the general shape, special features, and your early annotations. But then you have to move to the actual size development. This is your 2D working drawing. I want you to think of it as a flat net that you map out on a piece of newspaper. It includes all those specific fold lines and cut lines so that you can physically fold it up into a full-sized 3D model. This is the magic moment where your design actually starts taking up physical space in the real world.
All right, on to step 3. This is a big one, the 3D isometric projection guide.
So isometric projection is pretty much the gold standard way to professionally communicate your 3D design. Think of it kind of like the camera angle in a 3D city building video game. It's a very specific technical drawing method used to represent a 3D object on flat paper. It relies on standard South African drawing conventions, super precise dimensions, and structural lines projected at exact angles. What makes it so great is that it shows features, materials, and depth all at a single glance, and there's absolutely zero perspective distortion. Okay, so let me explain exactly how to draw a 3D isometric projection. First, you always start with your vertical leading edges. Imagine that's the closest corner of your box, facing right at you. Maybe it's 100 millimeters or 40 millimeters high. Next comes the actual magic trick of isometric drawing. You project your width and depth baselines outward at exactly 30-degree angles from the horizontal. Once your basic block is fully formed using those angles, you go in and add your internal features, pull out your labels, and use some shading and pencil crayon to give it that realistic detail. Let's picture an example of a simple, eco-friendly package to really cement this. Imagine drawing a 3D rectangular box. Those base edges you drew, they stretch 300 millimeters wide at that precise 30-degree angle. That front corner we talked about stands 100 millimeters tall, and because you're following all the sketching rules we covered, you've explicitly labeled the material as card. You've also drawn attention to a specialized closing device right on the lid, and maybe you've shown a waterproof lining visible on the inside. You can just perfectly visualize all of those complex elements captured in one clean isometric view.
Okay, moving to Section 4, Making and Safety Rules. Time to get hands-on.
I need to briefly remind you about the making stage and exactly what is needed here, because you can't just grab scissors and start hacking away at a piece of cardboard. You've got to be methodical. First, make a list of your specific materials. Are we talking A4 or A3 card? Are you using white glue? Next, list out your required tools: scissors, craft knives, cutting mats, safety rulers. Then construct a step-by-step flowchart for assembly. This is your literal manufacturing plan. Finally, you follow that plan meticulously while keeping a really close eye on the time limit set by your teacher.
And let's talk safety, because you'll be using sharp tools to cut some pretty heavy cardstock. Safety has to be your top priority. Always use a cutting mat under your work to protect the desks. Use a designated safety ruler, the ones with a raised edge, to protect your fingers when you're scoring or cutting. Handle craft knives and scissors with extreme care. Know exactly where the classroom first aid kit is located, and follow your teacher's instructions to the letter. Smart designers are safe designers.
Seriously, work safely when using sharp tools. Just let this simple little mantra play on a loop in the back of your mind throughout the entire manufacturing process. Finally, Section 5, Evaluating your packaging. So, the project doesn't just end when the glue dries. Let's briefly remind you of the evaluation stage, specifically adapted to packaging. You're going to use an objective checklist to fairly assess your work. Does it actually fulfill the material modification specs? Does it fulfill those structural constraints we talked about earlier? Was it made exactly as set out in your initial design spec? Does it actually fulfill its core function? Like, does it keep the food hot or cold without completely falling apart? And, perhaps most importantly for this specific project, is it genuinely an eco-friendly improvement on existing fast food products? You've got to be completely honest with yourself here. All of this evaluation culminates in a final report back to your class. You'll need to confidently articulate the product's ultimate strengths and openly discuss the areas that clearly need improvement. Nobody's perfect on the first try. You'll compile a comprehensive team file that includes all your research, the design briefs, those technical sketches, your 3D isometric drawings, and your flowcharts. And when you present, stand up straight, use good posture, and make strong eye contact with your audience. You really want to communicate your entire design journey effectively. And I'll leave you with the absolute most important question that every single designer has to answer at the end of a project. If you had to do it all over again, how would you make it even better? Design is this endless iterative cycle, right? Your first prototype is never perfect, but the lessons you learn from evaluating it are the exact tools you're going to use to build something incredible the next time around. So, what are you going to design next?